Welcome to the Brady Marcs podcast with your host Brady Yashia from Brady Marcs Buyers Advisory. Enjoy discussions with a variety of guests and pioneers from diverse backgrounds, each sharing their unique perspectives on property, business, industry and more.
Josh Morrissey's track record speaks for itself. Josh, the co-founder of Hive, is my next guest. He discusses how he saw the need for something different from the ordinary agency experience. His simple yet powerful vision for Hive has created a real estate agency that stands out due to its unwavering commitment to excellence. Discover how Josh's dedication to delivering outstanding results for his clients has elevated him to one of Canberra's most sought-after property advisors. He's a respected professional with a keen business sense. Under his leadership, Hive has facilitated over $1 billion in property transactions. Josh has continued to maintain Hive's reputation and preserve its premium position whilst experiencing phenomenal growth. Josh doesn't just rely on his impressive credentials, he's a natural at building relationships and establishing trust. We explore what it takes to achieve this level of success, how his expertise and personal approach instills confidence in sellers, get an insight into how he continuously raises the bar, provides service excellence, and always strives for improvement to maintain his position at the forefront of the field. Welcome, Josh. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you, Brady. That was some intro. It's really, really good to be here.
You're an inspiration in the real estate world. I'm very curious, and I'm sure the listeners are too. How did you go from a 19-year-old entering the property industry to running a successful premium real estate company?
It was a bit of a journey. So it was real estate 19 to 20 to 21, so straight out of school. Then I took a break and I actually pursued a trade. So I got on the tools as a carpenter for my early 20s and then back into it when I was 27. And I actually... Before Hive, I was at a couple of different agencies, and I've got to give Sam, my wife, half the credit because it's half her business, and she was there from the very, very start, and I couldn't have done any of this without Sam. But the vision was to always have our own business. It was always to provide. We identified a niche in the market, probably back when I was 19, 20, that there wasn't a business like Hive that really serviced the high end, that was really buyer and seller focused, and really built on transparency and trust. And being young, and I know your son's here and he's going through the motions.
Yes.
But being young and going through the industry when you are young and you are becoming an adult and you're going through business as a professional, as a young person, and you're experiencing the lives of other people through these transactions, what I identified the most that was lacking was transparency and trust. So for me, the vision early on was build a business with Sam, obviously, and her help, but to build a business based on that. It's transparency, it's trust equity, and that's what our business is built on. It's encoded in a really finessed, fine brand. It's backed by really good culture, but it's built on trust, and it's for the sellers that I represent and for the buyers that you represent. And that's really what Hive encompasses. Smooth on the outside, busy in the middle, but all built on trust and transparency.
Love it. Trust and transparency is imperative in any successful business.
That's it.
So having diverse experiences makes us all better real estate agents.
Yep.
I believe that, early in your career as getting into the construction industry, is that right?
Yep.
What has been the most positive about being in construction and giving you that edge?
The value of hard work and the value of people and the value of time, and I think the value of different skill sets and where you can apply yourself and build on your own strengths. I was good at swinging a hammer, I was good at building houses, but I'm also really good with people, and for me it was about not just following what I'm good at, but following what I'm passionate about, and it was always going to be real estate. But I think the best agents are the most diverse people because it's a corny phrase, but we coin it all the time. It is a people business.
It is.
Right? Everything is built on trust. The more transparent, the more trust equity that you have, and the more experience, the more relatable that you can be eye to eye with your client and your consumer, the better your business is always going to be, and that compounds over time. So I find having a diverse experience across lots of different, and I've done lots of other things. You ask my wife, I had some funny jobs growing up, trying lots of different things, and you should.
So what's the funniest job you've had?
We were out driving past a winery the other day, and I said to Sam, "So do you know I used to work on a winery?" And she just looked at me and said, "What?" what do you mean? I used to pick the grapes. I'd go out 4 a.m. in the morning and I'd prune the lines. And that was just completely random. I don't know how I did that. I did that over summer for a summer job just for 3 months. But, it taught me the value of hard work, and it really humbles you. Getting your hands dirty is a good thing.
Yes.
You shouldn't wrap yourself in cotton wool. You should be willing to get down and get dirty. And I think to pivot, as now, leading a business, you should never ask somebody to do something that you would never do. And I think having that diverse background enables you to have an understanding of where people come from. Because if you've done the shit jobs, if you've done the hard jobs, if you've done, if you've done things outside of what you're doing at the moment, it really makes it easy and, accessible and relatable to people.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So Hive is a major player in the Canberra market.
Mm-hmm.
And I might add, I'm very impressed with the calibre of your agents
Thank you.
agencies.
They're amazing.
You did mention that Samantha is
Yes.
a big part of
Huge.
of the business.
Yes.
So where was Hive born?
Hive was conceptualised, so are you talking just in terms of the idea or in terms of locality?
Both.
Yeah. So, funny story, but we were both at different agencies. I moved to her agency just to see if we could work together without killing each other and not get separated. Anyway, 3 months later, we had quite a large team within that firm, and the idea of the business was born. The aesthetic was there, the direction was there, the idea of the culture, the positioning, the area, that was all there in the foresight of where we wanted the brand. And the name wasn't there yet. I think it was called Avenue or something Sam had come up with, and Sam actually came up with the name Hive.
Okay.
So it was Sam's credit, so I can't take all the credit. But the vision was to always provide something that was completely out of the box, with a tone of voice that you can't copy, but with a culture that you can't copy, because the brand is only as good as a culture. And for us, we were fortunate to start with a really good culture, the team that we had, and they actually came with us to Hive. We didn't have a space at that time.
So how big was the team when
5.
you first... Okay.
5. And then we got a really big opportunity from a developer that basically said, guys, we don't really see value in, the firm that you're with isn't really adding value to, it was one of Canberra's largest developers. And they said, basically, guys, we just want to work with you direct. We're going to give you another 5 years worth of work, huge pipeline, career-changing, life-changing opportunity. But they basically said, we want to work with you directly. So it was like, okay, now we didn't have the brand. We basically built the plane while we were flying. So we shut up shop. I called my mate and I said, look, we've got nowhere to rent. Do you know of any commercial spaces? This was a builder at the time.
Yeah.
We ended up renting his office space downstairs. There was 5 of us in a space, smaller than this entry. Just a little sweatshop with 5 of us in there. And my wife, Sam, was 9 months pregnant. So this was 5 years ago, basically to the week. So we turned 5 in a week. So we're working this
Happy
little shop.
Birthday.
Thank you. Sam was pregnant. And this is just to the caliber that my wife is, right? She was 9 months pregnant, and I'm just gung ho. We call me the accelerator and Sam the brake, because I'm always 100 miles an hour and Sam's always telling me to slow down. But we were in this office. Hive was born. The name was born. We started to build the brand basically as we were trading. So we really struggled in Canberra to get any companies that understood our vision, because it had never been done before. So we did that 3 or 4 times, spent a lot of time, a lot of money. No one could get it right. And we ended up linking up with Marty Fox out of the blue, which I think most people know.
Yes.
And at that time we had White Fox Marketing. So we linked up with him. White Fox Marketing ended up, we sat down, we spoke about our vision. White Fox Marketing just understood it, got it, and just nailed it, basically. So
did you know Marty from before?
No.
Oh, okay.
So we were just linking up with Marty, because it's really funny. He was 2 years ahead of us, right? And I really struggled to find people within the industry that were doing things to the caliber that we wanted to do, especially in Canberra, right? And White Fox was really the only brand pushing the envelope close to what we wanted to do, and with a similar aesthetic and with a similar culture, but in a very different market. So I reached out to him and said, mate, look, I think we'd had James at that point. He was a month old, and he had Freddie, who was 2 years old. So everything he was doing was 2 years ahead of us, right? White Fox was 2, we were 2 weeks. And I just said, mate, can I just come down and just pick your brain? So me and Sam jumped on a plane, flew down there, hit it off like that. We're really good mates now, family friends. White Fox Marketing ended up taking Hive, polishing it into, what it was for the first 3 years. And that really helped because they created a tone of voice for us that propelled the brand and made it completely recognisable in Canberra, which is what we want. Fast forward 3 years, through an office into another one, bought a building in Deakin. Was always the focus to be a high-end brand in the high-end part of town. But Canberra is a very hard market to penetrate in the high end because it's very restricted. It's generational wealth and all that sort of stuff. So, fast forward to now. I think there's 21 staff. We've just moved into our brand new building from our little sweatshop 5 years ago. But again, but underpinning all that, the vision was to it was always about the people. You know, we've had the same people for 5 years. We've never had agents leave. The only time people leave is to, pursue travel or a different career or whatever. So we're really fortunate to have that culture. And that's, like you said, your comment about you're really impressed with the agents and the people that you engage because we're all a reflection of each other. And that I think was the key driver to what we wanted the brand to be, just encoded in really good branding, you know what I mean?
Well, it does stand out.
Yeah.
And all the agents that I've met from your team are very friendly, very professional, and a pleasure to deal with.
Honest.
So, yes,
they're just honest. They're transparent. They're honest. No BS. No overquoting, underquoting. They're educators.
Yeah.
Which I think if you're a good practitioner, you should be a really good educator.
Absolutely. I'm still learning, and I've been in the industry for a long time. It's important to keep on learning and to keep on teaching.
Yep. 100%.
So one of the things that has stood out with getting to know you is that you've said it's very important to have a reason for doing something or a reason as, for example, having a why.
Yep.
Yes. What is your why?
My why is growth. So it's not necessarily financial, but I have to be going forward every day, whether it be 1%, 2%, 10%, but personally, professionally, with my family, whatever. For me, my why is my growth. Financial stability and all of those, obvious points are an undercurrent to my why. But my intent behind my why is to constantly be growing because that's where the fun is, And I think once you become stagnant, especially in a business, you need to be evolving. Like you said, we're talking about some different touch points and digital touch points on your side of the business. You need to evolve. We're in an information economy. We're in a digital economy. You need to be reading the play. And for me, my why is just growth and enjoying the ride, making sure that my family is set up and that, I've got some really big goals, every week, every year, every 5 years, every 10. Sometimes I'm ahead of them and sometimes they take a little bit longer. But the undercurrent to all of that is just growth, and just being a better version, being the best version of myself that I can be, because I'm also responsible for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I really have to be inward to make sure that people around me are getting the best out of me. Because if I'm not introspective, then people around me aren't going to get the best version, and I'm not going to be able to educate them.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You've got to keep moving forward. But having fun along the way is
You've got to enjoy it.
So imperative.
100%.
So one of the things that is a top, I should say, one of the important things that you've achieved in your life is building a property development business called Aura.
Yep.
How much of your time is devoted to this business?
It sort of happens in parallel with just my day to day because I'm doing it anyway. I'm doing it for clients. So for us, the time expenditure of it is not that much because it's almost automatic now, So I'd say, look, in a week, there's probably 5 or 6 dedicated hours a week to it, but it just threads in with my day, And again, it's fun. I enjoy it, so it's not work. And it's part of the ecosystem. I think for us, for Sam and I, again, and Sam, I have to keep giving her credit because I don't know many people that could have done what she did with a 2-week-old baby, starting a business with a crazy husband who just was wanting to go to the moon. But she's only just we've got 2 sons now and a daughter on the way in December, and she's only just
Congratulations.
Now. Thank you. But she's only just now stepped back and been at home for the past few months. So we're probably really going to focus on the development side of things because it is part of our ecosystem. Jonathan, I think you've got coming in here, Marquette, we're partners in that business as well. So for us, I think our goal, together, collectively, is to create the best ecosystem we can for our lives and our business, financial, developing, Hive, obviously, but they all complement each other.
I like that word, ecosystem.
It's an ecosystem.
Yeah, it all goes hand in hand.
Yeah, 100%.
So lots of young people and even people looking to change careers want to get into the real estate arena. What would your advice be to someone looking to get into the industry?
Buckle up, I think. I think there's a lot of them, and I think they see the shininess of it, which is appealing, especially, with how prevalent, social media is, and it's all about status and quick likes and quick gratification. Real estate is the polar opposite of that. It is a marathon, you would know.
It is a marathon.
So I think where it's probably going to be a little bit harder for people to conceptualise in that age bracket is that the conception of what they see it to be on their devices is not the reality of it. So I would say you have to look past that, and you have to find somebody like yourself or myself or somebody that can sit you down and say, hey, what's your goals? What's your why? Big thing for us with my team, whenever anybody starts at Hive, I sit them down before we do anything. What's your why? Where are you going? What goals are we trying to hit? And we structure their business around their why, because everybody's why is different. Everybody's goals are different. Some people want to write a mill. Some people want to write 10. Some people want to write 100 grand. And I think that's really important, But I think align yourself with somebody that one or two or three people that you can get collective information to really decipher it for yourself. But then place yourself in an office that fans your flame, that are where you want to be. Don't put yourself in an office. If you're an agent who wants to write $2 million, don't go and work in an office where people are writing 200 or 300 grand, because you're not going to do it. They don't have the blueprint for you. So I think, like anything in life, if you want to be successful, you need to find somebody with a similar blueprint to you and copy that.
Yeah.
You don't have to be them, but you have to use their blueprint to service you. And I think that's really important. But get the information and find people that you can trust and get into an ecosystem that's going to elevate you, because you don't get to be the fastest running with the slowest. So that's really important. And I think to use the phrase, finding your why again, I think if you're really young, a lot of people think it's real. I didn't know what I wanted to do at 19, clearly, because I went back and I swung a hammer and picked grapes and did whatever. But yes. I think, if you can bed down what your why is and get your head onto paper, and you can get a clear picture and a clear path of where you want to go, start there, and the rest will fall into place, and just find the right people.
Excellent advice. So you went from being a successful selling agent to a very professional principal. Mm-hmm. What were some of the challenges along the way, or something that you learned that you want to share with the listeners?
I think how important it is to master yourself before you lead others. There's a really good book by Jocko Willink called The Dichotomy of Leadership, which I read.
Do you want to say that again?
The Dichotomy of Leadership.
Dichotomy of Leadership, yep.
By Jocko Willink. Mm-hmm. He's an ex-SAS guy in America. It's just a really good book. He's got a bunch of books out there. But when we started the business, and I knew what it was going to be, I knew that we were going to have 20, 30 staff. I knew that we were going to be, the pinnacle brand in Canberra, and that was the goal. And I knew what was going to be required of me. And I knew I had it in me, but I had to be aware that I need to polish up on that. And I had to learn to lead, and I had to learn to be, that's the dichotomy of leadership. You have to be soft, you have to be hard, you have to be firm, you have to be fair. You have to, these things that I think the difference between, and a lot of real estate agents they want to own the office, but they don't want the responsibility of the people. These people have mortgages, they have families, they have kids, they have goals, they have whys, they have this, they have that. So I think you have to be willing to bear the brunt of it all. You have to be willing to work till 2 a.m. in the morning. You have to be willing to pay before you eat. You have to be willing to sacrifice before you take. And I think, the biggest lesson is, and that's where all the growth happens, because it doesn't happen, the growth doesn't happen when your bank account grows. The growth happens when you go through shit. And when you go through shit and you learn the lessons and you have to adapt and you have to evolve, you will get the lesson out of it. But if your goal is true and your why is true and you never deviate from your plan, you're always going to get hit with grenades. You're always going to come up against obstacles every day, every hour. But you have to have a stoic perspective. I'm really big on stoicism. I'm reading a really good book at the moment called Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday, if anyone wants to read it. But you really have to be stoic, I feel, because you have to have an introspective perspective on yourself, but you also have to a lineal and a zoomed out view of your situation when you have a lot of people that you care for, because the direction of the business still needs to maintain the same trajectory, but you're driving it. So if you're not driving yourself well, the business isn't going to work well. And I think the difference when you're an agent, you're just worrying about, if you're my client, I'm just worrying about you and me and my wife and my kids and whatever other clients that I have. And that's it. It's really easy. And my dog or whatever. But when you make that transition to whatever level, where it doesn't matter if you've got the amount of staff that I do, or if you've got 2 or 3 or 4, the concept is the same. And the better that you have a handle on what you're actually creating and what you're driving, the better culture you can create. Because the culture starts at the front, it starts with the leader. Bad leader, bad culture, bad business, not fun. And I think that's the big lesson, is just, and being able to just take a breath, step back, look at it for what it is. Things just you've got to let things roll off you.
Yes.
You know, you can't be granular in problems that, you know, can take the same amount of energy as a big problem.
So don't sweat the small stuff.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
And have a very thick skin.
Have a very thick skin, you know, but have a very clear vision about where you're going.
Yes, that's very important. So is there a standout of the most exciting or interesting deal you've ever done?
Well, probably just the hard ones.
Can you share one of them with us?
I don't know. Interesting and exciting deal. Look, there's been a lot. You know, I think probably interesting and exciting. Probably just the hard ones. You know, in the top, there's probably a few. So I'll just sort of paraphrase a few. But we've done a few now in the $4 to $5, $6 million range that have all been difficult for a lot of reasons, sort of outside of our control. You know, we're always really diligent. Like, again, there's always really good trust with both sides. But they were just exceptionally hard. And I think the satisfaction that we got to get it over the line, and the buyer and the seller and everybody in between, there's probably a handful of those. And circumstantially, they kind of all happened at once. But they're all at this price point where there's only one buyer for that house, and you're only going to meet one, you know. And we just happen to have that times 4 or 5 this year that could have fallen over, but they didn't. And I think because of that perspective and because of that handle on things and being, you know, as professional as we possibly can be, we got a lot of really hard deals together, which really unlocked a lot of opportunity for our sellers and our clients. So I wouldn't say not exciting, you know. We haven't listed the Prime Minister's house or anything like that.
Soon.
But soon. Our office is just down the road. But it's just the hard ones, and just going through that and thinking, like, is this ever going to end, you know? And I think because in real estate too, and back to your question about, you know, advice for young people, a lot of it's out of your control. And, you know, if you are a young person and you get into this business, sales is a really good thing to learn and read and understand, because it helps you understand that you can only control the controllables. And I think advice for young people is just, you can only control the controllables. Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't worry about the things that you can't control, and especially in these really big deals, like these really, really, really hard ones that were just from another planet.
Yeah.
The stuff that we could control, we did, and that eventually was the stuff that glued it together.
Yes.
You know, and kept. And at the end of it, the buyer, the seller, us, everybody's happy. A little bit stressed and a few more grey hairs. But
I can't see why.
Yeah, that's why I shaved it all off. But we just always control the controllables.
Yes.
And that's it.
I might say that I walked through some of those properties, and some of them were beautiful homes.
Yeah.
And again, you were exceptionally professional, and so was your team.
Thanks.
I wish I could have bought at least one of those
I'll
from you.
I'll have some more. Yeah, I'll have some more.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, you know, for some of our buyers that we're looking at the time, they just weren't quite there yet.
Find them something. We'll find them something.
Exactly. So I know we've spoken a lot about Sam, and she's been an integral part of the business.
Huge.
What's it like working with your wife?
Hard. You should ask her. You should get her on here next time. Look, it's really hard because, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's so hard because it is a 24/7 thing, right? From 5 a.m. till 10 o'clock at night, you are joined at the hip. You have huge decisions to make, big financial implications for your decisions, and you don't always say eye to eye. I'm under a lot of pressure because we've got to feed a lot of people. She's under a lot of pressure because she's managing everything in-house, and you've still got to be a husband and wife in between all that. And I think that is where we learnt a lot, right? And I think anyone that is in business with their partner, it's hard, and I think you have to make time. And that's probably another lesson, right? It's probably time chunking is really good. I live my life through time chunking and time boxing and all that. That's sets me free. That's my whole life is in time boxes. But you can't enjoy the ride if you're not allocating time aside to enjoy the ride. And I think with Sam is you forget that you're a husband and wife because you're just so ingrained in this crazy business that's just on, it's got rocket fuel.
Yeah.
That and it took us a couple of years to really get a handle on that. We've got it sorted now, but it was tough. But it made us closer. Really made me appreciate her, and I hope it made her appreciate me. But now the focus is the kids.
Yes.
We don't need to be doing that. We don't need to be in the trenches as hard as what we were. The business is now very established, and now we can enjoy the time with the kids. I can
Exactly.
pop home for lunch, she can come in and see me, but we've got more time.
Yes.
Which is why we do it all.
And the kids grow up so quickly.
Too quick.
So you really need to sometimes just take a step back and enjoy the moment.
Well, for the first 2.5 years, I worked 7 days a week. I had probably a day off a month, if that, and I didn't see my first son at all for probably a couple of years. It's probably a big regret, but it had to be done. And now I get to see him. So probably while he was still a potato, probably okay to do it then while he was still at that age. Yeah. And that's probably another misconception people don't understand with business and getting into it at that level is that your success is parallel with your level of sacrifice, right? And I think people don't get it. You get the mum guilt, your son's there. Sometimes when you're not home for dinner, you feel guilty.
Yes.
You feel guilty as a dad, I miss this, I miss that. But again, it comes back to your why. So why are you doing it? Well, the end goal, this is a means to an end. And if you get there, don't get there and then just keep going at the sacrifice of still losing time with people because then it's not really worth it.
No.
But, and as long as you learn the lessons, don't keep repeating them. As long as you learn the lessons along the way and you actually do stop, you do smell the roses, you do take your wife out for lunch and all that sort of stuff, then it's okay.
Yeah, it is. Those small things mean
a
lot.
They
really do.
Time's the most valuable commodity that we have.
Yes.
And most people in business want to be successful so they can create more time windows back for themselves to actually enjoy life. It's counterintuitive when you get to the point in our business, we meet so many people that are uber wealthy, money to burn. And they're rattling around in a big house because they've just worked 7 days a week. And you can take lessons from that.
Yes. You don't want to be too late.
Don't want to be too late because nothing's guaranteed. So enjoy it, have a why, be strict with yourself. And two, I think, and everybody's different and that's okay. Your plan doesn't have to be someone else's plan. That's
right.
Yep.
So you're at the top of your game.
Yep.
How do you keep yourself focused without burnout?
Structure, time boxing. So I'm up at 4:30. I have to train in the morning because I don't drink. I drink probably once or twice a year, so I don't drink. And that was, again, your success being parallel with level of sacrifice. If you're gonna embark on something like this and a business or whatever is your goal, those things have got to go. They really do. You take it seriously. But nutrition is key. So my structure, my time, my day. It's just been organised, I think structure for me really sets me free. Terrible at admin, but I've got a team that's awesome at admin. So all my deficiencies, I have people that are really efficient in them, and I know where I'm bad, I know where I'm good. So I focus on those. But for me, it's just structure, staying calm, trying to have a measured perspective, but being patient, even though it's a paradox, but being patient with urgency, just knowing we're going to get there. Don't try to push it. Don't put a square through a circle, hole. Just, it'll come. Yes. Do the right things and things come.
That's right.
But just structure. Eat well, live well, move well, sleep well. Water, sleep, the two best things that you can do. They're underrated. Most people, and burnout, I burnt out for years not sleeping. But sleep's key. Structure's key. Relationships are key. We're social beings. Yes. You need people in your life that are outside of work. Yep. That's really key. So I think just understanding where your buckets are full and where they're empty and just making sure they're as even as possible. So there's no such thing as balance. It doesn't exist. It's harmony.
Not in real estate.
No.
Definitely not.
It doesn't exist.
Definitely doesn't.
It's just harmony. How harmonious can I get my life? How can I just get everything sort of even enough where I've got time for me, I've got time for my kids, my clients have got me, but just trying to keep the buckets as even as possible.
Yes.
It's hard.
It's very hard.
You juggle.
Trust me, I understand.
It's hard.
But it's good. You've got to have discipline, structure, and you reap the rewards.
100%.
So my philosophy on life is very similar to yours.
Yep.
You've got to get uncomfortable to get comfortable.
For sure.
And you say if something scares you, run towards it rather away
every
from
time.
it. Do you want to explain this a little bit to the listeners?
100%. That's where you grow, right? So I think That's where you get your best growth. If you're scared of something, so I used to wag school, right? If I had a speech, if I had to give a speech in English, I'd take the whole day off. I'd literally take the bus to the mall and I just wouldn't go to school. I hated it. At the risk of looking stupid, you ask my mum, I just hated it. So I started auctioneering. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to get in front of people and I'm going to just get in front of hundreds of people and I'm just going to do it. Because I'm confident enough. I know what I'm doing, but I just threw myself in there. You would never have seen me do that in school. I literally wagged I failed every test that I had when I had to do an in-class talk because I hated it. Sharks.
Oh.
So we went cage diving with great whites, me and Sam. Boxing, had a fight 18 months ago. Jumped in the ring just because I think the fear of getting knocked out in front of thousands of people, that's just, you got to let your ego go. Your ego is the enemy. Once you just free yourself of all of that and you don't, your identity isn't dictated by the perception of others of you, nothing's scary. Once you get over that, and if there's a few things, and I challenge people that are listening, if there are a few things that scare you, write them down and go and do them, because the satisfaction and the gratification and the courage that you'll get from doing something that you were genuinely shit scared of will enable you to do the next thing that you've been putting off and the next thing and the next thing. And that's actually where you get the growth. Yeah. So if it worries me or if I'm nervous or if I'm scared, I will run straight at it. It's fight or flight, and people are wired differently, but you can rewire yourself like that. And I think in business, it's really important. So and that's the other thing too, I think in business where people, it's paralysis by analysis. They don't want to start, but just start. Just start. What's the worst that can happen? And a lot of agents too are really scared of a no. The no's not going to kill you. Pick up the phone, call another 50.
It's a numbers game.
It's a numbers game. They've forgotten about you. The news has come on. They've forgotten that you've called. Just call another one. So yeah, but that's just it comes back to growth. That's where you get the growth. Just run towards it.
That's it. Face your fears.
100%. Life's too short. You regret what you didn't do in life. Most people. We've all got regrets for things that we probably wish we didn't do. But and you listen to you watch a lot of these videos. These older guys in the afternoon of life, and they say, "What do you regret?" And they all say, "Work too much and regret the things I didn't do."
So never regret what you do. Never
regret what you do. Regret what you didn't do. If you know you could have done it and you could have had a crack, even if you failed, do it.
Yes.
And that's probably the best advice I could give.
I think it's excellent advice. So I know we spoke a little bit before about technology and AI, and it's moved very, very quickly. What innovations have you brought into your business?
Look, we're old school in the fact that we are. For us, it is all about the phone. It's connection. So tech-wise, we run all the really similar CRMs to everybody else. We do use AI a lot, so we use chat all the time. We just rebranded, or not rebranded, but we refreshed the brand and we used AI all the way through it, and it was phenomenal. But for us, it's just digital touch points, quick stuff. There's a lot of different CRMs and systems and proposal technology that you can use. We utilize a lot of that stuff, like pre-market, pre-list, anything that's just quick and easy. Like for me, like I'm sure we're all probably here guilty of sitting on Instagram for an hour and you lose an hour because you're just watching stupid videos and they're 15 seconds each. The attention span of people is getting so short. So for us, all of our touch points in the business, whether they be print, paper, digital, on the phone, whatever, our engagement over email, everything's short, sharp and digestible. So whatever we're doing, like tech-wise, or even on the phone, we're probably reconstructing the way that we operate to make our communications and touch points with our consumers as digestible as possible, because their attention spans are getting smaller and their time's getting smaller, they're working longer. So it's probably actually more of a time thing than a tech thing for us, and we're really cognizant of that.
That's a good point. Yeah. Very good point.
And that keeps us consistent. So even in a downturning market, we're actually selling more because we're ready to play, understanding it, identifying where the pain points are in the communications, and we adjust it with the market. So I'd say time over tech for us. Yeah.
Time over tech. I like that. So you've achieved so much. What's next, and where do you see Hive in the next 5 years? Wow.
What's next? So daughter in December. So back to being a zombie and no sleep for 2 years. And then, look, we'll sit around probably we're speaking with a few agents, obviously, so there'll be a few more agents that join. So I think Hive-wise, the rent roll will obviously grow. It's just byproduct of being busy. A few more agents. For me, I'll step back a little bit from selling. I really want to work on the team, a lot more developing, being a lot more involved with the team day to day and helping them in their deals. Because for me, again, too, I'll have a few more Saturdays off. So for me personally, and this is the promise to Sam because she's going to watch this. I've got to have this on camera.
Okay.
So I'm going to stop working Fridays because I want to get a little bit of time back, and then I'll probably work only 2 weekends of the year, and then eventually stop selling at some point, and just work on the team, and just help build them, because that's really where I actually get the kicks out of that. For me, listing and selling I love, but actually I get the kick out of watching people grow. I get them, agents coming from, other firms, writing X amount of GCI and problems here and problems there, and just getting under the hood, retweaking the engine and then just watching them fly. I actually love that.
That's the best feeling.
It's the best. So it's for us, it's not the financial goals are sorted. We've hit those markers and we're satisfied and we're content there. I think for us, it's about purpose now, and it's about how can we be impactful to the people in the team, and watch them do it, because we've done it. So probably that, and then just continue to do what we're doing. Maintain, evolve, set the mark, lead the pack. That's it. And just enjoy
brilliant.
it.
Well,
enjoy
I'm looking
life.
forward to seeing the growth.
Enjoying
and I know
seeing
it's
you
going to be
around.
exciting to watch.
Yes.
One question I get asked all the time, and I know that none of us have a crystal ball.
Sure.
But people are asking what's going to happen in the market over the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. What do you see happening in the next 6 months?
It's like trying to predict the weather, right? No one's got it right for 2.5, 3 years. No one. I haven't heard one economist get it right. So I'd say, giving you honest feedback from boots on the ground, is that we're getting a lot of calls in from sellers who can't service their debt. Regardless of what you hear in the media, those calls are now coming in. So at a point, that has to wash into the market. We all expected that to hit the market 2 months ago. We're probably 2-3 months behind where everybody sort of thought the rates cliff was going to start affecting, and people were going to start offloading from 1.5 to 6. 1.5. Jonathan's going to come and give you all the info on rates, but from 1.5 fixed rates to call it 6% variables, sort of good odd 50% of mortgage holders should have been in distress there, and we should have seen that translate into the market. We saw CoreLogic's CMA increase 50% and Domain's lodgement in their portals increase 50%. So that all happened, but that didn't actually translate to listings. So we're all sitting around going, well, there's going to be a lot. We've increased probably the natural 30% through spring, but we haven't seen the stock in the market, but the calls are happening. So the calls into the office are happening. The books are loading up. So I would say, and we are still going down slightly. It's softer, sitting at 58 average days on market in Canberra. 6 months ago it was 21, so we went up to 90, back down to 60. So we're sort of fluctuating a little bit, just depending on the stock levels. And the buyer urgency is slower, obviously, because the rates are higher. So I'd say, to answer your question, depending what happens with those calls, if they eventuate into listings, which they generally always do, it's probably going to be from Jan, Feb onwards, because we're 3-4 months behind at that point, But it doesn't really align with what you're reading in the media. It doesn't really align with the CoreLogic reports. The data's a bit skewed because you've got some people that are in mortgage distress that are selling because they have to, and that price is obviously going to be cheaper. You've got some people selling just because they need to sell for whatever the lifestyle reason is. You can have 2 houses next to each other in Canberra at the moment, and they're selling 200-300 grand apart, and it doesn't make sense. So I'd say watch it in Jan, Feb, and that'll give you a clearer picture, because I don't think much is really going to change. But if the phone is anything to go by, then it should go down. Down a little bit, then pick back up, rates should tweak, and then hopefully by next spring we've got a bit of a correction, a normalisation of the rates, and a more confident buying spring. Hopefully buyers are a bit more competitive.
Yes, good buying.
Good buying from now till June.
Excellent.
Yep.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here today. If the listeners would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
The phone. It's always on, as it should be for an agent. But, you can call me on the phone, jump on the website. All my details are there. Instagram, whatever's easy. If there's agents that want to just reach out, pick my brain like I did with Marty back in the day. If there's anybody thinking about starting a business, doors open. Just feel free to call.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.